You're listening to the Reality of It All podcast, candid conversations about today's hot topics. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today, we are talking about self-care, relationships, and sexual health, and how they all kind of interconnect. With me today is Sylvia Costello, who has had over 10 years of experience in the mental health field, working with people and also, attending School for Criminal Justice, Human Services, and Psychology. So this is going to be quite the fascinating conversation. I have no idea what direction it's going to go in, so hang on. It's going to be a bumpy ride. But Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited for this bumpy ride. They're my favorite.
Absolutely. I mean, you never know where the conversation is going to go when you don't script it. And I never script any of my shows. So it's always fun to just kind of see where it's going to go. But with these three topics, it's like it could go anywhere. But I think let's start out with, I think going through your bio and stuff, part of your background is you were diagnosed with PTSD. And you had to struggle through that working with life changes. So, tell us a little bit about that and how it affected you and, your self-care, your relationship and all of that.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. And my PTSD started, when it started, who knows, but I got diagnosed when my second was born. I have three now. And that was like a huge pivotal moment for me of like, wow, I've been suffering all this time and I had no idea how incredibly deep I was actually suffering. But even prior to that, my journey started when I was 13, where I got alcohol poisoning and I was so inebriated that had they left me in a room, I would have choked on my own vomit. And so that was very huge eye awakening. I don't identify as a recovering addict or anything like that because I was 13. Right. I didn't know any better. I was just mimicking what was being taught to me at the time. And so I remember it took me 2 weeks to heal. And I just remember walking and I forget who I was talking to. I was texting and I can see the pavement underneath my phone as I'm walking still to this day when I'm thinking about it. And I just remember thinking, if I don't do this for me, nobody else will. And that was the catapult for the rest of my life. And my journey was always, but why? And, that song from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, keep swimming, right? So that's literally been my life, is just to keep swimming.
That is a really profound realization at 13. I'm thinking back to when I was 13 and I would have never come up with anything so deep. Yeah. So, to come up with that kind of a realization that if you don't do it for yourself, nobody else will, that's powerful. And that's a realization that many of us don't get deep into adulthood. Yeah.
Which is one, speaking of that is one of my goals, and it's more of a silent goal. Cause this kind of goal is one that people would like they get shocked by when they hear it. But in the work that I do now and who I am as a person and my family, everywhere in my environment, my goal is to protect people or not protect them, but prevent them from getting to their deathbed and having those regrets and not having had that deep sense of true love and belonging is something that we all crave, it's what we all seek for every single day. And I know that my love is super powerful. It's taken me a long time to get to this place of true confidence on who I am and what I have to provide to the world. But if I can save somebody one day at a time from preventing them from, getting to their deathbed and having regrets, I think I've done my job.
That's awesome. I love that. Because, having regrets, gosh, who wants to take that into the next life or, whatever is out there after this life. Nobody wants to take that with. So, that means, take the risk, take the leap, do, the wild, crazy stuff that people say you shouldn't be doing that, especially at your age. I mean, I watched a video of an 80-year-old who went skydiving.
Yeah,
just do it. Get out there and live, because this is the only life we have.
Seriously. And people are like, oh no, what if you die? It's like, what if I die? I died doing something that made my heart so freaking happy. Like, I died happy. That's the essence of life, is to live one, every moment as if it's your last, and not necessarily from a place of scarcity or lack, right? Like, we're not going to have any more moments, but this moment is this moment. One of the things that I was giggling as you were saying it, because it's so ingrained in my head right now, of like a frustration that I have. I live in New Hampshire. The Appalachian Trails starts somewhere way down south and then goes up to Maine. And I want to complete the Appalachian Trail in 2024. I have 3 kids. I'm a mom. I got all this stuff in my life. And people will say to me, your husband's going to let you go, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what? Let me? Like, do you know who Stephanie is? Because Stephanie lives for Stephanie. And then the other thing they'll say is, you're going to abandon your kids for 6 months. Who the hell says I'm abandoning them? Like, abandoning someone is never caring for their emotional well-being, never just up and leaving and never coming back. Like, that's not abandoning them by living my life. There's so many lessons that they're going to be able to learn from watching me do that, and learning how to cope without mom being there, knowing that mom will come back, and if mom doesn't come back, like, still being able to appreciate the life that they have and all the other things. There's just so many learning lessons in me choosing that for them. And I just find it incredibly interesting that most people see others going after their freedoms or going after, the things that they crave. And then they're like fearful, like, and have such a lack mindset around it.
It's a safety in your little bubble thing. You don't step out of the bubble, because, we don't know what's out there. It's a fear of the unknown. And, so I have a huge fear of the unknown. I am terrified of the dark, and I am terrified of open water.
Okay. So am I.
Jaws, one too many times.
I'm afraid of both.
Which is fascinating, because I absolutely love sharks. Shark Week comes on and I'm like glued to the TV. I'm like, yeah, Shark Week. I think they're absolutely fascinating creatures. I would love to see them in person, as long as I'm in a very solid boat, not in the water, and it's funny, because there's so many things that fear will cause me to miss out on, snorkeling, scuba diving, stuff like that. And I'm okay with that. I've made peace with that.
There you go.
But it's that safety bubble. I don't want to get out of my safety bubble.
Well, the important piece of that is, you're not doing it impulsively. Right. You're not like deathly afraid and you're never going to do anything around water because, all these things. You've just realized how far you care to take it and what boundaries you're setting for yourself. And you get to be confident in that. There's nothing wrong with that. And so for me, I hate being in water that's where I can't see what's below me. Like, put me in a pool all day long, lake, anything like that. Like, I don't even want to dip my toes in the water when I'm in my kayak. I don't know what's there. What if something comes up and eats my entire foot off? I'll never be able to hike again.
Exactly.
Something crazy like that. Right. But at the same time, the other side of me is like, but why? Right. And so, I'm not going to go and just submerge myself in these situations that are just going to completely destroy my nervous system. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to try things and I'm going to dip my feet in the water. I'm going to do little things here and there with people around me and whatever it is, to get myself to being like freely riding the waves and having no care if I fall into the water.
Right. And that is, that all falls into the self-care model.
Self-care. Yeah.
Because, we're setting our boundaries, we're recognizing our boundaries, and we're living by them. And, we're making others live by them too.
Confidently.
My kids love to tease me about my fear of open water. except for the fact they have it too.
That's all love.
It's a catch 22 thing. I mean, I was the kid who had the fear that in a swimming pool there was a cage with a shark and the people were going to let it out. I had that irrational fear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all part of self-care. Walking the Appalachian Trail, that's a self-care thing. And not only that, but I mean, God, the experience, that's basically a once in a lifetime experience.
The humanity, the essence of being a human, being in nature and surviving off of what you have. It's just, there's so much to that experience that is so incredible to have. And the self-care piece that you're referencing, there's this level of understanding ourselves for ourselves. So there's a book called Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. And there's an interview that she does. I forget who she's doing the interview with, but she references an interview she watched of Maya Angelou. And I don't remember who Maya Angelou was doing the interview with. And in that interview with Maya Angelou, the interviewer asks her, so if you belong everywhere and nowhere, that means you have true belonging. And she says, I belong to Maya. And so I'm paraphrasing here because Brene Brown does a much better job of describing it there. But braving the wilderness is all about being confident to stand alone, but also be a part of something. If you're a part of something that you're feeling is not in alignment with who you are as your own self, taking that risk to stand alone, no one gets to their deathbed and regrets the decisions that they made. They regret the ones they didn't make. And so for me right now, my personal journey in my life right now is just to live for Stephanie, belong to Stephanie. And it's so incredible. And so people see that and they feel it when they're around me and they're like, what is this? And they just want to like put it in a box and keep it to themselves and like, let me bottle you up because you're so precious. Right. And your love is so precious. And so one of the things that back to the self-care piece that is really important is back to the boundaries, being very clear on your intentions, being very clear on what you want, where you're willing to go and how you're willing to compromise and not compromising yourself in the process. That's a huge learning lesson for me right now.
Yeah, that's a big one. And, and then piggybacking on that with going back into the relationships, like with your kids and your husband, we're expected to give our lives up for our kids, and until they're grown. And I did, I had my first kid at 19. I am 49 now. My last one is going to turn 18 this year. And I'm like, it's finally my time. Now I can, be me and do what I want. And, which is sad. That's 30 years that I gave up all my hopes and dreams for my kids, to take care of my kids. It was a choice I made, but I think it's too expected of us from society.
It is. And,
so for you, following your dreams and following what you want to do, walking that Appalachian Trail, is, people look at that and they're like, how selfish is that? They think it's selfish. And that's because that is just what we have been taught to believe.
Oh, there's two things. One thing I remembered, and then the selfish piece. Selfish is not a dirty word. I am like, true that is like it is not a dirty word. There's a good time to balance out selfishness and selflessness, right? There's a time to balance those things out. And then my next point to that is the balance of, percentages. I'm really doing my best to not compare things in my world. Like my relationship with my son, one son does not correlate to the relationship with the other. It's just going to look different. You can't possibly compare them. They all both hold a different place in my heart. Right. And so when we're choosing one thing, when we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to a ton of other things. And that is a very important piece to remember, that when someone is coming up to you and saying, well, this is what I want from you, but you've already chosen what you've chosen maybe for yourself or somebody else, you get to say, I love you, but my time is already committed or whatever it is, over here, this is what's already happening. Doesn't mean you're not loved. Doesn't mean you're not cared for. Doesn't mean you're not a priority. It just means this time is already committed. And so we talk about spoons in the work that I do. We only have so many spoons to spend a day. And so choosing wisely how to spend them in a very, as best as you can, equal way is really important. And again, I want to top that off with self always comes first.
It should. And it's supposed to. And that's taught that. We're not taught that. We're taught the opposite, especially women. We're taught that everybody else comes first. Think about back into the 30s and 40s where the mom served everybody their food before she got to sit down and eat. And oftentimes she ended up eating a cold meal because she had to get up and go get seconds, or she had to go get a milk, or she had to go do this and that.
Get your ass up. You know where the water is.
Exactly. That's my thought too. I'm like, what's wrong with your legs? But that's how it was. That's what was expected of us. We were supposed to take care of the family and, the husband and the kids. And, nowadays I'm like, you're hungry? There's the kitchen.
My husband has this comment. He says usually like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Oh, I'm hungry. I want water. The kitchen's closed. That's my husband's like joke around the kitchens. Like, if you want it, go get it. But the kitchen's closed. The kitchen staff has gone home for the night. That's what he
exactly. Yep. The dogs are going to start going crazy now. And let's talk about this with your husband, because you brought up, people are like, your husband is going to let you do this. Yeah. And, if that's the kind of relationship that you're in, it's not an equal relationship. It's not a partnership. That's it's a controlling relationship.
It's a dictatorship is what it is. Yeah. It's definitely a very, one of the things my husband has always been very good about is not trying to bottle me up. Sometimes, we've gone through our challenges, and when we're in our challenges, it's that feeling of like, oh no, I'm losing the love that I, hold so deeply. And so there's times where there's a fear happening that tries to contain the love in a way that is in a fear-based way. But with that said, overall, he has always wanted me to, like, he's an incredible man. He's always wanted me to just spread my wings and go after what I craved in the world. And I crave a lot of things. I'm a very adventurous person. I'm very much an introvert, which people like see me on my recordings and YouTubes and whatever. And they're like, you're an introvert? It's like, yeah, catch me in a group of people and I will not be the same person.
Me too.
But when it comes to, this spontaneity and this adventure and this, experiencing the world in this very different way than most people, in the way of like the essence of being a human, he has always supported that. And even if there's been hard things, it's not, no, you can't do that. It's, we got to figure out how to do this. But just so you know, this is like real hard right now for me.
Yeah. And that's how it should be. You have that communication and you have to have compromises. Maybe this is something that I want. This is just not the right time to do it. Let's plan for you to do this in the future or whatever it is. And that's okay to do. But, it's him saying you can't do that would be, kind of like you saying, I'm going to do this and I don't care what you think. That kind of mentality just doesn't work in a relationship at all.
Well, basically what you're referencing is the, if I don't want this, then you don't get it. If you want this and I don't want it, then you don't, right? This, if, and, or if, or either, or either or, there we go. The either or mentality, right? Or instead of the and mentality. Right. And so I do a lot of talking with couples around this Venn diagram. And in this Venn diagram, super simple. I just kind of pieced it together. I probably should like trademark it or something, but there's on one side of the Venn diagram. And so for those of you who don't know, the listeners, it's two circles that go together and they meet in the middle. And on the one side is you, and you're sitting down and you're thinking about, what do I want for me? What do I want for them? What do I want for us? The middle is the workable compromise. And then on the other side is for them. What do they want for themselves? What do they want for you? What do they want for you as a couple, or whatever the situation is, whoever is there. So when you can get the essence of that, you can really start to figure out how are we going to get to this middle ground. So no, I can't just jump up tomorrow and say, okay, bye, I'm going to the Appalachian Trails. I got to figure stuff out. I got to make sure that there's, family can be roped in and plan things and whatever it is. But I don't know, Friday I could reschedule some stuff and, hey, I'm going to the Whites today, the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I'm spending the day in the mountains. That I can easily say, and he'll be like, okay, have fun. And he'll even make my breakfast to pack for me to bring with me. Right.
Nice. So. That's nice. Yeah. Well, we've got a few minutes left.
Okay.
And, we've touched on a lot of different things here. And I want to kind of touch a little bit on the sexual area.
Yes.
And, I think what I want to talk about is the using energy in tantric sex to build bonding.
Yeah.
Since we're really focusing on relationships and stuff today, sex is so much more than just orgasm. It's so much more than that. And there's that intimacy and that deep bonding that comes along with it.
Absolutely. So, we say energy often in our world, and most people who don't understand the mind-body connection can't feel what energy is. And so to kind of break it down as simply as I can, emotion is just energy in motion. And so our brain perceives our world. First, we have a thought, we see something, we have a thought, then we have a memory, then we have a chemical reaction. And sometimes that happens without us even realizing it. And so that chemical reaction, the serotonin, the dopamine, the cortisol, whatever it is, all the different hormones that we carry that create what we call anger and sadness and happiness and whatever else, we have. And so we describe that chemical reaction based on how we feel in our body with feeling words, emotional words. And so if you can really, as a listener, if you can sit back and just think, just feel the air going into your lungs, right? And you do that a couple of times, you're going to notice a difference in the chemistry in your body because you're getting your blood flow to move. You're getting your heart to move in alignment with your breathing, which is then going to create a certain kind of homeostasis or home base for your body. And once you start to realize like, whoa, I just impacted my own energy, then you can think about your energy when you're with another person. So it always starts with you understanding your body first. And not just going for the stimulation of the erogenous zones. Don't get me wrong. It's great. But guess what? Remember that time where you're like, had the best grand finale. You had the best grand finale and then you were still unsatisfied. It's because your soul wasn't satisfied.
Yep.
And so when we're able to, two things, there's one activity that you can do where you're sitting with your partner face to face and you have your hand on their heart. They have their hand on your heart. And then you each have your hand over your other hand over each other's hands on each other's hearts. And so it's like this crisscross thing. And you're just sitting there and you're breathing with each other. Maybe you put on a YouTube song. If you search like Tantra, meditation, you'll find lots of YouTube songs that create this tempo in the room. And you're just sitting with each other and each other's breathing. That's going to get your energy and your hearts into coherence, which is where your hearts are beating together and you're breathing together. That will create such an electrocute of a sensation in your body that will provide that ability to connect in such a deep human way, not a superficial way.
I like that. I'm gonna have to get out and go.
An easier thing to do is 20-second hugs. That also creates. Next time you give somebody a hug, do it for 20 seconds and you'll notice that energy shift very quickly. And both of you will go, it's like, oh, wow, that actually feels really good.
Yeah, I like those. I love the long hugs.
Mm.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fun. And I can't
welcome.
wait to hear about your adventure in the Appalachians. So I know it's a couple years away, but, can't wait to hear about how that goes.
Yes. Thank you so much.
It's going to be amazing for you. So thank you. Listeners, I will have all of Stephanie's contact information in the show notes. Just go to therealityofitall.com and pull up her episode, and her website, social media, all that stuff will be there for you. So definitely reach out to her and, just learn how to live better and freer and, and all of that, just live, period.
Deep, safe, intimate connections through healthy communication. Yeah.
I like that. So as always, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you in the next show. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok.